Good evening, and thank you so much. Certainly want to thank each of you for joining tonight's Teletown Hall with Senator Bob Casey. My name is Ashley McBride, and I'm the State Director for Our Future. If you're just joining us, we are so excited to have an in-depth conversation tonight with the Senator about bringing good paying jobs here to Pennsylvania and revitalizing our infrastructure under the American Jobs Plan. As you join, please let us know where you are dialing in from, or if you have joined us on Zoom tonight, you can drop it in the chat. The first poll question that we will ask tonight is, what region of Pennsylvania are you dialing in from? You will press 1 for Western Pennsylvania, 2 for the Southeast, 3 for Northeast, 4 for Northwest, and 5 for Central. Again, if you are just joining us, please let us know where you are calling from, or if you have logged into our Zoom, where you're from. So again, what region of Pennsylvania are you dialing in from? Is Western Pennsylvania, Southeast Pennsylvania, Northeast Pennsylvania, Northwest Pennsylvania, or Central?
And thank you again for those of you on the phone voting in that poll. I'll also remind folks that may have just joined us that if you have a question you'd like to submit for Q&A, you can press 0 on your phone to submit that question to one of our operators. You can also press 7 to get updates via email and or mobile phone. So again, 0 to submit a question, 7 to give us your email for updates. And next I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Garris with 99% Pennsylvania to take us forward. Go ahead, please, Jeff.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Garris with the 99% Pennsylvania campaign of the Pennsylvania Budget and Policy Center. We're looking forward to our conversation with Senator Casey this evening because, you know, the American Rescue Plan has revitalized our economy and delivered much needed relief for working families who've been hit so hard during this pandemic. Now our sights are set on the next long overdue investments, rebuilding our infrastructure, including our decaying roads and bridges, and bringing jobs right here to Pennsylvania that will work on doing just that. President Biden's American Jobs Plan will bring billions of dollars in investments in infrastructure right here in the United States, where despite being the wealthiest country in the world, we currently rank 13th in terms of quality of our infrastructure. This plan will include fixes to our highways, rebuilding our bridges, upgrading our ports and airports, renewing our electric grid, bringing high-speed broadband to all Pennsylvanians and all Americans, modernizing our schools and child care facilities, and much more.
Thank you so much, Jeff. We are so excited this evening to be joined by Senator Casey, who will help us, or who will lead us in discussing what happens next in order for us to pass this plan. United States Senator Bob Casey fights every day for Pennsylvania families. He is a strong advocate for policies that improve the healthcare and early learning of children, and policies that will raise wages for the middle class. Senator Casey serves on 4 committees, including the Senate Finance Committee, the Senate Health Committee, and the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. He is also the chairman of the Special Committee on Aging, where his agenda is focused on policies that support seniors and individuals with disabilities. Senator Casey and his wife live in Scranton, and they have 4 adult daughters. We are so elated to have Senator Casey join us. Senator Casey.
Ashley, thanks very much for your introduction. And I'm grateful to be with you because this is a meeting about the future. And that's on the minds of a lot of people right now, because the possibilities are significant in Washington to chart a new course for that future, especially for people who have been left out of the debates in Washington for more than a generation. So I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I want to thank Jeff and all those who join us tonight from all across the state. I'm in northeastern Pennsylvania right now, and so I'll be watching and listening to where people call in from and have their questions, because I wanted to make sure that I made reference to this long list of numbers here, which seems kind of boring, but this is the American Rescue Plan by county. All the money that is going right now from the rescue plan into counties and communities small towns, cities all across the state. But I won't bore you with that too much tonight. But I do want to thank you for the opportunity, because as both Ashley and Jeff made reference to, we do have, as a matter of law now, the American Rescue Plan. It's already having an impact. We just saw that one of the first studies completed the other day that was reported in the New York Times, that food insecurity is going down because of that only over a few months. Economic security is going up. So many good indicators just from the rescue plan. But now we have to take it a giant step forward by passing both the jobs plan and the families plan. And we'll talk more about the mechanics of how to do that, but I want to pass both of them. And in a robust fashion, both of them combined, as you know, add up to about $4 trillion over 8 years. That's the kind of infrastructure investment we want to make. And I think there are folks all across the country, Democrat, Republican, and Independent, that want to help rebuild our country. And in addition to roads and bridges and broadband and water and sewer and the electricity grid and transit and so many aspects of our physical infrastructure, they also want us to make investments in the caregiving infrastructure, home and community-based services, so we can help seniors and people with disabilities get the care that they want in their homes and in the community. That program is basically capped now because of a lack of Medicaid dollars we've never been willing to invest. We're going to do that because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris outlined $400 billion just for that part of the jobs plan. Then you get to the families plan, and that's even more in terms of human infrastructure. Universal pre-K for all 3 and 4-year-olds, quality, affordable childcare for so many tens of millions of Americans who don't have it now. Investments in higher education to make sure that if someone wants to go 2 more years after high school to a community college, for example, they can do that without a cost. We should make sure that they have that opportunity. Instead of 4 years of high school, we want to make sure that those individuals have 6 years of education so they can start down the pathway to leading a more successful life. So there's so much here to talk about, and I know we will tonight. But in the end, what we want to do is have a transformative impact on the lives of Pennsylvanians and Americans. And you've got to make the investments. You know, we've spent 40 years with a tax code that's been rigged for very wealthy Americans and for big corporations. 40 years of that. And it's been rather obscene in my judgment. We have not spent more than the rescue plan and maybe a few other limited examples over those 40 years, investing in families, investing in low-income families, low-income workers, middle-income families, families trying to raise children, families trying to make ends meet, families that need not just a physical bridge to get to work, but they need a caregiving bridge to get to work. And most of them are women. And while I'm on the topic of women in the workforce, how about the women who do that heroic, essential work in homes and communities and in long-term care settings? They are almost always women, and they tend to be the highest percentage of those women are women of color. We have to invest in them, invest in the work that they do, that heroic work, and lift up that workforce to a level that we claim every time we say we care about kids, we care about older citizens, we care about people with disabilities. And yet that's the same people in Washington who say they care are not willing to make the investments to lift up that workforce and accord it the status and the investment that we claim we want to provide. So we have a long way to go. Lots of battles ahead, lots of work to do, but tonight is a good night to discuss the possibilities, the great possibilities to transform the lives of a lot of Americans.
Senator Casey, thank you so much for being with us here tonight and sharing your thoughts. We are taking questions right now on the phones and online, but I'd like to start off by asking you and noting that in response to the pandemic, Congress enacted enhanced unemployment assistance to address major weaknesses in our unemployment system, including large gaps in coverage. Gig workers, self-employed people, independent contractors were not included previously, and inadequate benefits. But these changes are just temporary. And in fact, now we see a growing number of states are dropping out of the temporary federal unemployment assistance programs. And as we've seen this week, some in the General Assembly in Harrisburg would like Pennsylvania to do the same thing. Do you support making these unemployment reforms permanent? And what do you think is the likelihood that we'll see this in legislation for recovery?
Well, Jeff, it's a great question because the debate about unemployment, I think, has been influenced by the perspective that some in Washington have when it comes to helping folks that are hurting, whether it's unemployment assistance that's above the level that someone gets in a typical unemployment check. Initially $600 for a few months, and then that stopped completely until the $300 didn't pick up until January. A lot of people forget that there was zero help between the 1st of August and really the 1st of January. So that's when the $300 came in. But it always seems when we're talking about helping the unemployed, helping folks with food assistance, helping people get health care, helping folks with healthcare or childcare or all these kind of supports we want to provide to families. It seems like the people that complain about that are the same ones that want to give away the store to those big corporations I mentioned and very wealthy Americans. So it's been a very ideological argument. I think we've got to continue to support folks who have had trouble transitioning and need help with regard to unemployment. I think we also have to have other supports for that family. That's why the tax credits that were greatly enhanced in the rescue plan, the child tax credit, the earned income tax credit for low-income workers, and the child and dependent care tax credit, the shorthand for that is the child care credit, all of those have to be continued, and I would hope in each instance be made permanent. So there are a lot of features of the rescue plan that we've got to continue because a number of workers and families are going to have a hard time transitioning from where we've been in the pandemic with the economy in the ditch to getting that family back up on the road again and moving forward into the future together.
All right, thank you again, Senator. Appreciate that answer. And thank you, Jeff, for helping us get a couple of starter questions in there. I am going to go ahead and bring our first live question in right now, and it's going to come from Ernest in Philly. But a quick reminder to those of you on the phone, if you want to submit a question, press 0. Speak to an operator, give them your question. They'll take down some notes, put you in line to ask it live. If you're not comfortable asking it live, just let your operator know that when you press 0, and I'm happy to read it for you. We've also got quite a few questions coming in from Zoom, and we'll be reading those as well and asking for answers from our panelists. So thank you again to those of you on the phone. Again, 0 to submit a question for Q&A, and you can press 7 here if you'd like to give us your email address or mobile phone number to receive updates. Let's get Ernest up live. Hey, Ernest, thank you for being on the phone with us. Go ahead with your question for Senator Casey and our panel. Hey, Ernest, I'm having some trouble hearing you. Are you far away from your phone?
I noticed in my neighborhood that all the bridges are old and rusty and like get ready to cave in. I don't know when they're going to fix it. You have them repaired before something drastic happens.
Got it. So those neighborhood bridges in your neighborhood in Philly are looking like they're in disrepair already?
Yes, they are.
And you're wondering when there might be some assistance coming. Got it. Thank you, Ernest. Who can take on this question from Ernest?
Well, let me start. I don't want to foreclose the possibility of someone else answering the question. I'll just say quickly that the jobs plan, Ernest, and it's a really good question because Philly is experiencing the same issues when it comes to physical infrastructure like bridges that a lot of smaller communities are facing, meaning much older bridges, some of them not only 50 years old, but 75 years old, some of them 100 years old, that are either in a state of disrepair that makes them dangerous, or they will, they may not fall down next Wednesday, but they might fall down in the near future. So there are about 3,300 bridges or more in our state that need work. The jobs plan would invest substantially in making sure that those communities have a shot to fix as many bridges as possible with the revenue. But the president's plan has the kind of revenue that can be transformative when it comes to bridges. But I don't know if anyone else has anything to add to that, but it's a good issue.
Yeah, I think you covered it, Senator Casey. Thank you so much. And thank you to Ernest and Philly for our first question. Reminder, folks, you can press 0 to submit a question for Q&A. If you're on the phone, those of you on Zoom, we're seeing some coming in from you as well. So thanks to you. And we've got Teresa also in Philly up next. Teresa, thank you for joining our forum. What's your question for Senator Casey?
Hello, Senator Casey. Thank you for serving us in Pennsylvania. I appreciate the work that you do. My question is, what is being done in the jobs plan that will help low and middle income families afford homes? And I'm specifically talking about, I know I in North Philly, for example, I would like to see a situation where, a development agency or group can go in and have some of those homes renovated and then have people be able to refinance or have those homes redone. Philly is a very old city, and then have a, situation where besides those homes being done, there are major things. There's the ability for those people to be able to pay for those homes with affordable mortgage rates, and also to be able to put in those same neighborhoods, grocery stores and major services that people need. So is there anything in the jobs plan for that?
Yeah, Teresa, good question. There's in the jobs plan, because it's a physical infrastructure bill, there'll be lots of dollars in there for communities to help rebuild not just roads and bridges, but other parts of infrastructure, including housing. The rescue plan, which is already, as I mentioned earlier, already part of our law, has housing support as well. But we've got to make sure that when states are getting revenue from either the rescue plan or even at a county and municipal level, that those dollars are used to help the community to rebuild. And part of that is housing and the repairs that go along with it. The other part about this are tax credits, whether it's the housing tax credit or other tax credits for energy efficient homes, to provide an incentive to have a home that maybe an older home that you can retrofit to make it more energy efficient. Those tax credits are available as well. But you've got your finger on a critically important issue for helping to rebuild not just the community, but to help a family to rebuild.
Thank you again, Senator. Much appreciated. And Teresa, thank you so much for being a part of our forum and for your excellent question. Thanks very much. A reminder, folks, if you have a question you'd like to submit for our live Q&A with Senator Casey, please press 0 on your phone, speak to an operator, give them your question. And if you're not comfortable asking it live, make sure you let your operator know, and I'm happy to read it. But looks like Judith in Swarthmore is happy to go live with us. Judith, you're on the line with Senator Casey. What's your question?
Senator Casey, first of all, thank you for your long years of wonderful service to the Commonwealth. As you may or may not remember, am active with home and community-based services. And for years, I've been trying to get Medicare to cover the most important service needed when someone is able to come home or needs their services in their home. The home health aide, who is a necessary person, is totally neglected as far as coverage for the patient. And we need to ensure that they are considered just as vital for their coverage as are the doctors, the nurses, and all of the therapists that they have no question about. And especially since we are now moving to aging in place and livable communities, it's even more important. But I have felt strongly that we really need to get those home health aides recognized as full coverage.
No question about it. Judith, thanks for your question, and thanks for the work you've done on these issues over a long period of time, and with regard to home and community-based services and home care generally. You know, one of the most important features of the jobs plan is that section or that provision that's dedicated to home and community-based services, $400 billion. And I'll say it again, that it's really about three groups of Americans, right? It's about seniors, of course, who want to have services in their home or in the community. Folks with disabilities, many of whom have no other options, and many of whom can get to work every day if they get a little bit of help in the morning to get them ready for work. Sometimes that's all someone needs, and they can have a significant disability and still get to work every day, but they need help getting started. Thirdly, it's of course about those workers that you point to, those workers who were always essential, but obviously in the midst of the pandemic were even heroic, going into homes, putting themselves at risk for the virus and still doing that important work. We have to lift them up. We've got to make sure that they not only have a chance for a better wage, but they ought to be able to join a union. And if you join a union, it's highly likely your pay will be higher, your benefits will be better, and you will have a career path as a home care worker or a worker providing home and community-based services. And joining a union is also necessary because that pay scale nationally, just imagine this, in the greatest country in the world, those who work in this field are paid on average $12 an hour. In some states, it's $9 or $10 an hour, but even in higher income states, it never gets to more than $13 or $14 an hour. That's not nearly enough. We should not be a country that has home and community-based services provided by workers paid only $12 an hour. That is, in my judgment, un-American, not worthy of who we say we are, and also not worthy or consistent with the status that we claim to accord those workers. We say that we're concerned about those workers and the people they take care of and provide services to, and yet we're not investing in them. So that's why we need a big, bold, transformational investment in home and community-based services. That's why we're trying to get the jobs plan passed.
Senator, again, we just want to
Thank
say,
you.
sorry, Ian. Senator, just want to say thank you again for joining us this evening. You have been truly an advocate for Pennsylvanians. I want to ask something regarding one of the things we do is with our issue advocacy, when we're having conversations on doors with those individuals across the Commonwealth, we don't start off telling people what they should care about. And a lot of times we're talking to people who are talking about hyperlocal issues or really the things that they're facing in their own homes. When we look at directing state and local stimulus funds to the right place, this is something that you've been talking about a lot this year. Is there a real risk that these funds could go to areas that they aren't intended? And if so, is there anything that folks who have joined us, whether on Zoom or Facebook or on the phone, can do to prevent that from happening?
Well, it's a great question because for most of last year, starting after the CARES Act passed in late March, the CARES Act in 2020 was the only one of those series of COVID-related bills that had a direct allocation for state and local governments. We wanted to expand that throughout May and June and July and going forward to the end of the year. But the Republicans in the Senate and the House blocked it. They didn't think that any state needed any extra help. They didn't think any county needed any extra help, nor any local municipal government. So we had to pass the rescue plan on our own, only with Democratic votes, and then a tiebreaker by the Vice President Kamala Harris. And that was a good moment when she cast that vote at 5:34 in the morning. But when the rescue plan passed, that was about $350 billion that went to state governments, county governments, and local governments combined. And there were three revenue streams, or two really, one to the state for needs that the state had, but also the state would then transmit dollars to local governments, and then a separate allocation for counties. The counties in Pennsylvania, I could go through this list I have, I won't go through all of them, but the county governments got a lot of money, and so did state government. State government got in total about $13.7 billion just directly to Pennsylvania. That doesn't include the dollars going to individuals for tax credits, doesn't include a lot of the dollars for schools. And then the county governments got help. But the allocations for counties are based upon HUD criteria, housing and urban development criteria, and population. So for example, a big city's going to get more because of its population than a small town. But even the very small counties in Pennsylvania got a lot of dollars. To give you an example, Fulton County, down by the Maryland border. Fulton County has about 14,000 people in it. That county alone got more than $4 million overall in a very small population county. The county government got 2.8 million, and the local jurisdictions got almost 1.5 million divided up. And then you get to larger counties. We had a call earlier from Delaware County. That county, between the county money and the municipal money, got almost $250 million, $243 million just for Delaware County alone, for the county and the municipal government. So that's the kind of dollars we're talking about. And the allocations aren't arbitrary. They're based upon the population of the community, the needs of the community, based upon HUD criteria. But these are big dollars, and when you separate those dollars from what the individuals got in the rescue plan, just think about this. Just think about the individual families that benefited. The number of Pennsylvanians who got the $1,400 check was above 8 million Pennsylvanians out of our population of a little less than 13 million. So a lot of Pennsylvanians are getting the $1,400 check. A lot of Pennsylvanians starting in July will start to get the child tax credit. That's gonna affect more than 90% of families in Pennsylvania that have children. So these are big numbers, and it's about time we made these investments.
Thank you again, Senator. Thank you, Ashley. And great questions. Again, really appreciate everybody who's participating tonight. I'll remind you, you can press 0 to submit a question for Q&A if you're on the phone. And for those of you on the phone as well, I'm seeing we've got Karen asking how she can volunteer to help some of these initiatives. Karen, if you haven't already, you can press 7, give us your email address and or your mobile phone number to get updates. And you'll also receive action items that allow you to get more involved. So again, press 7 if you'd like to give us your email or your mobile number so you can get those kinds of updates. And we're going to go to our next live question coming to us from Harleysville, but looks like quite a few folks have this question tonight. So thank you, Catherine, for bringing it into our forum. You are live on the line with Senator Casey. Please go ahead.
Hello, I thought somebody was going to read my question, but Senator Casey, it's nice to speak with you, and thank you so much for all that you do. My big question is, I am such a proponent of all the things that the Democrats are putting forward, and the jobs bill specifically, but I am concerned that the Republicans seem to be blocking it, you know, with such a close majority in the Senate. So I was wondering if you thought there was a chance that the filibuster would be overcome so that the jobs bill could be passed and the Democrats could finally get some work done.
Well, Catherine, thanks for your question. And it's a question that's arising in a couple of different contexts. In the context of passing the jobs and families plans, I think we can get much of those two initiatives passed with 50 votes plus the vice president breaking the tie through budget reconciliation. But there are certainly other issues like Senate Bill 1, which deals with protecting voting rights from the ravages of these right-wing legislatures around the country that are trying to undermine the votes of Black Americans and others who live in communities of color. They're trying to do everything they can to prevent people from voting instead of having what we had in 2020, a record turnout. They're trying to suppress the vote, and it's as blatant as could be. That Senate Bill 1 to advance voting rights and voter protections, to make it more likely that we'll have higher turnout rather than lower turnout. It also has provisions that deal directly with this terrible dark money that, you know, you have billionaires buying elections with very little disclosure about who they are, what their special interests are. And it also deals with ethics as well for the executive branch, the judicial branch, and the Congress. So all of that is significant, and I believe essential, that we should not, we should stop at nothing to pass Senate Bill 1. Your question is directly pertinent to that, because we can't pass Senate Bill 1 through budget reconciliation with 50+1. Right now, under the rules, we need 60. I think we should change the rules at least for that bill. If someone didn't want to change it for everything, that's their prerogative. But at a minimum, to protect voting rights, if we don't protect voting rights, there's not much use for Congress to do anything right. So I think we should change the rules either in a limited sense or in a broader sense, so that we can get major issues done and achievements over the goal line, so to speak, for the American people on infrastructure or voting rights or immigration or police reform, climate change. You go down the list, it's a long, long list of things that we should be getting done for the American people. And if that means we have to change a rule, it's not a law, it's not a constitutional provision, it's just a rule in the Senate. That means we have to change it to drop the 60 down to 51. We should do it. And people should remember, as recently as the 1970s, that 61 was 67. So they've dropped it before from 67 to 60. I think it's about time we made it a 51 vote majority. So the majority would have a chance to govern and not be thwarted and blocked and obstructed by the tyranny of the minority.
Thanks so much, Senator, and thanks to those of you who submitted questions about the filibuster. We appreciate it. We got that from quite a few of our participants, so thanks to you. Again, 0 to submit a question for Q&A. We've got our next one coming to us from Zoom, though. This comes from Paula, who asks, how can the idea of caregiving infrastructure and these jobs and family plans help nonprofits provide assistance to our underserved LGBTQ community in Pennsylvania? I'll turn that over to you, Senator Casey.
Well, thanks very much, Paula, for the question. I think there's no question that we have a chance to really advance the policy as it relates to home and community-based services for seniors, people with disabilities, and to lift up the workforce. At the same time, we've got a lot more to do. We have to continue to make it possible for us to expand greatly the number of Americans that have healthcare coverage, the number of Americans who have access to quality and affordable healthcare. We made some real progress in the rescue plan, which did not get much attention when we had provisions in that bill to get premiums down, especially for people on the exchanges, to make sure that healthcare was more affordable than it was even under the Affordable Care Act. So we made some progress, and it showed me that we can expand the number of Americans covered by quality, affordable healthcare within these infrastructure bills, just like we did in the rescue plan. Another part of that legislation provided more incentives to states to expand Medicaid. Now you have, even though there are a long list of states that have not done it yet, now in the last couple of years, you've seen in some big states, whether it was Missouri or Florida or some other states, where voters are voting for Medicaid expansion because they want to have coverage through Medicaid expansion. This bill, the rescue plan, has a provision to provide another incentive for the states to pick up 5% of the cost, which is a lot of money in a state, could be billions of dollars in some states, to provide more of an incentive for them to expand Medicaid. Now, I want to make sure that for the LGBTQ plus community, that we not only are providing healthcare opportunities and for folks to get healthcare, but also to make sure that we pass the Equality Act. Talk about something that we need to get done with could not get done with 60 votes likely. That's why another reason why we should change the rule to get the 60 vote down to 51 is to pass the Equality Act, which is really just a continuation of the progress we made starting in the 1960s with the Civil Rights Act to make sure that we have a law in place to protect LGBTQ plus Americans from discrimination in housing, discrimination in education, discrimination in healthcare, or in places of public accommodation. Because even with all the advancements we've made on marriage equality over the last less than a decade, despite that great progress, that same person, that same worker, or his or her partner, they could be married on the weekend and fired on Monday morning or fired on another day because they don't have the protections in their states that the Equality Act would provide across the board, across the nation.
Thank you again, Senator. Much appreciated. Paula, thank you for submitting that through Zoom. We've got our next one coming from Zoom as well. This one comes from Kathleen. She's asking, I have been the primary caretaker for my 72-year-old father since he had a stroke and a heart attack in August 2020. It is far more feasible both fiscally and personally to stay home and care for him instead of returning to a full-time position. In the meantime, I have engaged in gig work and freelancing when possible. So, Senator, I think Kathleen's wondering, how will this legislation help people in her situation?
Well, is it Kathleen, did you say?
That's right, yep.
Well, Kathleen, thank you for the question. And I'll tell you, your story is, like a lot of stories we've heard this year, heroic. The fact that you've made a decision to stay home and care for a loved one, your father, when you could be doing something else. And the fact that you made that commitment should be the subject of our attention and public policy. Now, we've had in place for years programs to aid a caregiver. We have literally tens of millions of Americans, not millions, tens of millions, who are doing caregiving for a loved one in the home. Might be one of their parents, it might be a spouse or a sibling. And there have been a number of initiatives over many years to help. But again, we've got to do something on this that is transformative. So when we're talking about home and community-based services, and we're talking about caregiving, this is part of it. We have to make sure that those who are doing that work and who often take that work on their shoulders at great personal financial to their great personal financial detriment, for example. We talked to a young woman in Luzerne County a couple of weeks ago. Sophia was her name, and she was talking about giving up a job that was paying somewhere in the 80,000 range and coming home to take care of two parents, and then having an income which was just a fraction of the 80,000+. And so these stories are, we're hearing about them all over the state and indeed all over the country. We have to invest and lift up and help those caregivers, whether it's a home care worker who's working for an agency who doesn't have a union and is paid a very low wage, or whether it's an individual who's providing that care for their family member and is provided some help, but not nearly enough to make ends meet. So much of this care is, if it's not 24 hours a day, it's a lot of hours in a day. So we got to make sure that we pass both the jobs plan and the families plan to help lift up those caregivers.
So a incredibly brilliant and passionate senator said, many women are not going back to work because they don't have reliable quality childcare. There's not an option to care for an older relative. As much as a woman might need a better bridge to drive to work, she may need a different type of bridge to get to work. Want to talk about a different type of bridge. Senator Casey, as you know, this is a quote from you. Our infrastructure, of course, must meet the needs of people where they are in order to help them succeed. That means looking above and beyond what we used to think infrastructure was. From internet access to clean drinking water to childcare, it's time to modernize our infrastructure so that we can create a sustainable and reliable Pennsylvania for all. I want to ask specifically about this plan and what it will mean for giving, I'm sorry, forgive me, Senator, for having access to broadband internet has perhaps become more important now than ever when we talk about its reliance on telework, telemedicine, remote learning in this last year due to the pandemic. Could you talk about how this plan would give access to more Pennsylvania residents who don't have it?
Yeah, Ashley, thanks so much for the question, because the lack of broadband, lack of access to reliable internet has been a problem for a long time throughout the country. We've heard over and over again, folks that live in rural areas and small towns have not had the kind of broadband access that they need. And so many communities are either underserved or unserved, completely unserved. And that's been a persistent problem. We've had a number of federal initiatives, but not nearly enough. Joe Biden really, in this jobs plan, put a big number on it. He put a number on it that equates to $100 billion to focus on broadband. But he also, and we did by way of legislating, put dollars in the rescue plan to focus on this as well. For example, a county government, when they're getting an allocation of dollars, I mentioned Delaware County and Fulton County, but pick any county in the state, there's a separate allocation. They can use those dollars for a range of things. They can fill a hole in their budget that was caused by COVID-19, but they can also use it for, in the rescue plan, a limited set of infrastructure initiatives. One of them is broadband. So even in the rescue plan, which is already part of our law and is being implemented, there are opportunities on broadband. But when it comes to the jobs plan, that there's going to be a lot more in that for broadband, because this is pretty simple for people. This is not only lack of broadband hurting a small business, lack of broadband limiting what a family can do. It's as simple as this: children in school can't do their homework, and that was true in big cities like Philly, but a lot of small towns in rural areas. So what we tried to do in the rescue plan was to provide help to local governments who could provide help as well, but also to the state. The state, under the rescue plan, received more than $7 billion in state funding just for this purpose, for broadband. There's also a separate fund that Pennsylvania will get dollars from. It'll get almost $280 million from this, a capital projects fund, so a community can carry out specific capital projects in that community, so they can enhance the ability to have remote work done, or health monitoring, or have an education related reason for having broadband connectivity. The Federal Communications Commission got help in the rescue plan as well, over $7 billion for their so-called emergency connectivity fund. So both in the rescue plan and the jobs plan, you're going to have a lot more dollars to get people connected. And we need to do that. We need to do it for kids in our schools, for small businesses, for families, even for healthcare. It's hard to deliver telehealth and quality healthcare if you don't have broadband. So we got a ways to go, but I think we have great possibilities with both the rescue plan that's already in place, but also the jobs plan.
I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who submitted a question, everyone who joined us, whether they joined us through the call that they received tonight on Zoom or Facebook. Senator, I certainly want to again say thank you to you for taking the time out this evening to join us. But before we sign off, wanted to give you an opportunity if there were any final remarks to wrap us up in the things that we have discussed on this evening.
Well, Ashley, thanks so much. I appreciate you and so many others who made this possible. And Ashley, I'm not sure I fully answered one of your questions, which one part of your question talked about how can folks stay engaged and hold folks like me and others in government accountable when it comes to these dollars. You should know that all these counties are getting dollars and municipalities are. And I think as citizens, asking questions about where the dollars are going, where the money is going, when you have sometimes millions of dollars coming into a county and in other counties tens of millions, demand answers to those questions about where the dollars are going to lift up that community and help it recover from the pandemic. And obviously the engagement that folks had tonight on this call on a range of important issues, that engagement is so important, whether it's on voting rights or the 60-vote filibuster question or questions about the jobs plan or healthcare or otherwise. Please stay engaged, because that's how change comes. One of the reasons that we didn't sit around with the rescue plan and try to negotiate for 3 or 4 months, we just got it done with 50 votes in the Senate. One of the reasons we did that is because it was a rescue plan. The house is on fire, and I knew that you wanted us to act, not to talk and to wait, but to act. So thanks for putting that pressure on all of us. And I know that pressure will continue, as it should, because the only way we can chart a course for the future is to take action to lift people up, to bring about transformative change in this moment that we have. We have 2 majorities, 1 president and 1 vice president, and we need all 4 to get things done. We may not have all 4 in place 2 years from now. I hope I'm wrong about that, but we may not have it. We got to use this moment to go big, or as I've often said, go big or go home. So it's time to act, and we appreciate you running alongside us and pushing us to make bold change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, everybody who's involved in this production tonight. And before we wrap up, I wanted to give everybody one more opportunity to get involved here. So if you are on the phone with us and you'd like to give us your email address or your phone number, your mobile phone number, so that we can keep you updated as we move through this process and give you information on how you can take action, please press 7 right now. Speak to an operator, give them your email address and or your mobile phone number. We'll get that information. We'll make sure we keep you updated moving forward. And we really do urgently need this plan to pass the House. So we're wondering if you will help us to make sure your member of Congress votes in favor of the American Jobs Plan. So I'm going to give you a link here, but I'm also giving you an opportunity for those on the phone just to press 1 right now if you would like to be involved and if you would like us to connect with you to tell you how you can get in touch with your member of Congress. So if that's something you're interested in, press 1 right now and let us know. I'm also going to read a link that you can go to where you can find that same information. So grab a pen and paper if you need it, or otherwise, again, just press 1. We'll reach out to you with information on how you can stay involved and how you can connect with your member of Congress. The website you can go to if you would like to take action right now is going to be fofpa.link/AJP. So again, that website is fofpa.link/AJP. That's for our Future Pennsylvania, who is providing that link. So it's fofpa.link/AJP, or you can just press 1 right now just to let us know that you would like us to reach out to you, give you information on how you can stay involved and how you'd like to connect with your member of Congress. Happy to help you do that. And again, we could use your assistance, so please do press 1 if you need that. Otherwise, for those of you who have just pressed 7, we'll hang out for just a moment here and I'll repeat some of the information we've got for you while we take a moment to collect your information. And I'm actually going to go back, and we didn't have our full audience on at the very beginning of this forum. We were asking folks where they were from in Pennsylvania. So I'm going to go ahead and run that poll one more time for you here. If you're in Western Pennsylvania, press 1 right now. If you're in Southeast, press 2. Northeast, press 3. Northwest, press 4. And if you're in Central, press 5. So again, we're just wondering what region you're joining us from. Press 1 for Western, 2 for Southeast, 3 for Northeast, 4 for Northwest, and 5 for Central. So go ahead and vote on that. I'm going to wait just a couple more minutes here while we give everybody a chance to provide their contact information. We've got just a few more minutes for you to do that. So thanks to those of you who are speaking with operators right now. And for those of you who press 7 and you're waiting, just hang out for just a second. We'll get someone with you in just a moment. And reopening that poll for those of you who would just like information on how they can get in touch with their member of Congress to become more active as we move through trying to pass the American Jobs Plan. Again, press 1 right now if you'd like us to reach out, or you can go to FOFPA.link/AJP. That's the link where you can find out how to write to your member of Congress and make sure they vote in favor of the American Jobs Plan. That link one more time, FOFPA.link/AJP. And again, for those of you on the phone, if you would like to get involved, you'd like us to help you connect with your member of Congress, you can also press 1 right here. So we appreciate your activism. Thank you so much. We're just about to wrap up the call here. Of course, I want to thank everybody who is involved. Senator Casey, thanks so much for answering questions today. Really love all the questions we got from our live audience tonight. Really what drives these forums is your engagement and your involvement and your questions. So thanks to our audience. I also want to thank For Our Future Pennsylvania and 99% Pennsylvania for helping organize this event and put it together. We really appreciate everybody who worked behind the scenes to get this production rolled out. And whether you participated on Zoom or on the phone or you streamed it on Facebook, we appreciate your time and your engagement. So thanks so much. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. If you have any questions or concerns that we weren't able to address and you're on the phone, you can stay on the line here. Leave us a voicemail message. And if you need anybody to get back to you from For Our Future Pennsylvania, you can leave a message with your name, your contact information, and your question or concern. We'll be sure to do that. So again, just stay on the line to leave those messages. Otherwise, thanks again. Stay safe, folks. Have a great rest of your night.